Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and I see spaceships! Well, one spaceship. This is UFO, the cosmos-faring robot of the cosmos. He released alongside Hench, and was the other mini-warrior to suddenly get a boost in both size and price point. Right up front, I need to mention that UFO comes with a jointed stand that, on paper, is fantastic. In execution, it's just okay, mostly due to the surprisingly limited positioning of its triple-jointed arm. There are no swivels. However, it gives UFO a few more dynamic display options, and stands are always a pleasant pack-in idea for a figure. As for UFO's UFO Mode, it is adorable. It's like a teched-out classic flying saucer with front cockpit windows, a rear booster array, and a friggin' tail fin. All this goodwill is squandered slightly by the enormous hole in the bottom of the disc, but I can overlook that. The colors are quite fun, but the green is insanely over-brightened for the character that this is supposed to be homaging. There are a variety of ports in the bottom of the saucer mode for attaching UFO's space gun, so have fun figuring out which hole you prefer to stick it into. UFO has one of those transformations that is best described as take everything that can move and move it a bit. Like Hench, it's easy to miss that you need to do a waist spin. Also like Hench, once you're aware of that, this conversion is really fast and easy to do. Many UFO figures have rather spotty ball joint connections that can make this a little harrowing, but if you tighten those sockets up, you've got nothing to worry about. Also, using the tail fin to raise the head is a great idea, but it can be such a stiff slider, I almost wish I could just push the thing up from underneath. The cute little flying saucer is turned into a cute little spaceman robot. UFO discards every vestige of human proportions Cosmos had, and leans hard into the realm of almost anime degrees of puff and physical personality. It mostly works for me, but I find that I wish the arms had more shape to them than just obviously being the sides of a flying saucer. This little guy does fare well in remaining visually interesting, with a nice series of silver chest paint apps to go along with his bombastic green and yellow palette. UFO's head sculpt is great, though a lot of that comes from the fantastic idea of putting a clear bubble over top of it. It's silly in the best way, the idea of a robot putting on a space helmet when he heads out into the vacuum, because robots don't breathe. Taking the old-timey spaceman aesthetic to a new extreme, UFO's pistol is absolutely darling. The ray gun-ass ray gun's vestigial orbital rings and ludicrous aerial fin are topped off by the silver lightning bolt on the side of the weapon. I mean, you either get why this works or you never will. Also, the stand can still ram up the gusset of UFO's crotch, which means he comes with a lot of display options right out of the box. Nothing's more logical than letting you pose a spaceman robot as though he's floating in space. Space. Quoting Portal 2 is not super funny anymore. Anyway, this is UFO, and we're going to take a look at his posability. Now his head is, completely uncovered, and I thought, hey, this guy's head is completely uncovered, it'll be super easy to move. Except it has a super slick dome over top of it, so it is still kind of tricky to get a grip on it. If your hands are slippery or you just emit a natural grease like my skin does. However, his head can swivel left and right, and you can go all the way around if you want him to get all exorcist and whatnot. He also has a waist joint, which is fantastic on this body shape, because when this guy twists his waist, there's so much width on the top that it looks super dynamic. So I like that a lot. And he's all like, I'm a-chugging my way through the cosmos, which is my name. His shoulders are on a really weird ball joint, because this is how it mounts, right? So it's kind of like on a diagonal upward angle. You can kind of move his shoulders forward to there and move them back to there. You also can move them to all these really weird angles. And at first, I didn't like this much, but as I got used to it, I found that this offers some pretty unique posing options, even though some of the more simple and mundane ones can be trickier to put together. It took me a while to figure out how to get his arms to look naturally down at his sides like this, because they're this big, goofy, curvy shape. And this is also helped by the ball-jointed elbow, which again is kind of weird. It's an easy bend, it's a bit of a bicep swivel, but this thing bangs into this corner, so you kind of have to get used to how this works, and then you can come up with some neat tricks like twisting everything around, and just coming up with ways to make this guy look a bit less like he's made out of the letter U. Also, there's a transformation joint here, but it has a lot more movement than just the transformation range, and this joint also allows you to add to the shoulder posability. So this guy's shoulder posability it's good, it's widely ranged, but it's completely eccentric, and can take a little getting used to. From the waist down, he's a bit more normal. He's got a ball-jointed hip joint, which is, again, open at the top, like on Hench. He got some outward stuff. And he's got a ball-jointed knee, although it's like screw-clipped in here, so it's a bit more of a simple knee joint that has a swivel than anything else. And sometimes some of his ball joints can get a bit loose, and before you start floor polishing or supergluing them, the first thing you should try doing is giving quarter turns to these screws that are holding the ball joints together, because these 4 ball joints are held together, they're sandwiched between these pieces, so there's actually kind of an adjustable tightness thing going on if you're, unless, you know, I was going to say if you're lucky. It's more like if you're not unlucky. If you're unlucky, then the ball joint just isn't working, you're going to have to tighten it up with liquids or gels. But this also can help out if these things are too tight. Like, this one actually was too tight when I got him, and I had to give it a quarter turn left rather than right, so it's a bit smoother. His feet are sculpted in a permanent tilt, and they don't really move all that much. So, unfortunately, it is at first glance tricky to get this guy to have anything but an A stance. The thing I learned is that, thanks to the heel flaps on mine at least being a bit stiff, and the fact that you can fold them down as much as you'd like, because they're not just like clip-in, clip-out things, you can actually fold them down a bit to give him a bit more of a variable standing angle on each leg, and then get his legs a bit closer together, or, you know, a little bit farther apart, so you can get some play going on, and have this guy do more than just stand there with his arms sticking out to his sides and his legs sticking out to the sides, being all like, "I'm Peter Lorre!" Also, he comes with a stand, and the stand, you know, will obviously increase what you can do as far as posing, because you just stick it into him like that, and he's all like, "Ha." And, as I said before in the review, I wish this stand had some swivels to go with these hinges, because it is surprising how limited this thing is. But then again, you can also do this. So this guy has, over time, grown on me in posability. At first I thought it was kind of limited, but I've come to realize it's actually pretty dynamic for his body shape. Anyway, I'm gonna keep doing this if I don't move on, so let's get into some overall thoughts! UFO certainly didn't disappoint me as Hench did. In fact, he was a pleasant surprise, as I expected very little out of him. I guess I hyped myself too much for Hench, and gladly didn't hype myself enough for UFO. He does still feel a bit too much like an upsized toy, and has the same under-engineering problem I had with Hench. However, UFO has way more personality, way more physical stability, and just a little bit more fun factor than his brawny wave mate. I did have to tighten up a lot of his ball joints, and I still wish he had more going on to break up the shape of his arms. And while he's better at making me forget about it in the moment, I still wish UFO did a bit more for his increased price point. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I hope you're all proud of me for not using the term anal probe anywhere in this review. Until now, at least. You always need to save one surprise for the end.